second in a string of tutorials that I'm trying to make for all the boss fights. Hopefully I will get around to doing a boss fight strategy for everything, and I will also do one for the individual chapters themselves. But as of right now, we're just going to focus on bosses. So just one thing to note, if your MP is low, yep, this one has a Mako Shard in it. Remember, that's 10% recovery relative to your max MP, so having MP up makes that recover a bit more. Now, before we get into the boss, we're going to need to trigger him right over here. We're going to plop down a save just to make this a little bit easier on ourselves. So with this fight, there's a couple of different ways to come at it. The way I come at it isn't exactly the best, but it is a strat. I'll explain the basics here, and hopefully that you can take this and learn something else with it, even if you don't want to learn this particular one. One of the things you want to learn is, during the chapters, doubling down on a specific element plus magnify plus MP absorb can be very beneficial, because there is a ability on Cloud and Aerith's weapon both that gives a 20% buff. Let me see, where is it? So you see a lot of magic here. There it is. 20% magic buff at full HP. So that is this is very beneficial. And one of the other things you want to keep in mind is Cloud actually has a 20% cost reduction. Where is that little node? Right here. So his spells are going to be cheaper than everyone else's. So that MP Absorb will keep you at a full bore the whole time. So magnified spells will hit a lot harder, and you will not have to worry about grabbing MP crates. Those can take a lot of time. This is a very extensive setup, so you may want to go with Blank Magnify, Element Magnify, Element Elemental, so your Mithril Blade can actually hit some enemies. Because the Mithril Blade hits very, very, very pathetically without Elemental attached, so that's something to keep in mind. Right now, I have Tifa on Feathered Gloves instead of Metal Knuckles. A lot of people have found that early on, either Mithril or Feathered Gloves are the route. We want her to be casting a little bit more magic, but we still want her to have decent physical. So I've opted to go with Feathered Gloves and take the little bit of a hit on the magic stat, and balanced out her damage with Elemental Lightning. One of the things of note is Tifa has a parry animation that you get by adding in the materia of parry. This is very good movement. What you're seeing right here is not representative. She actually does a slide. That's how most of the runners are activating it. It's just by holding guard and mashing circle. You can make it go even faster by holding triangle, which is the uppercut parry, and your light speed parries out of her. This is something you're going to want the whole game because it will give you parry cancels. I'll show that in the boss fight real quick, that you can cancel out a lot of her attacks with parry. So, we're not going to actually do the fight just yet, but we're going to switch over. So right here, let's see, Focus Strike, and then I can cancel out the end of it with parry, and I can also uppercut, parry. You see how long her uppercut is normally? But I can uppercut, parry, cancel, uppercut, and chain those really quickly. So that's a technique you might want to learn. It's very helpful for building her ATB and doing a lot of damage really quick. So parry is something you're probably going to want on her. In this case, I have Lightning Elemental. Healing, because her MP is really not as big of an issue. I don't know about every other runner, but some runners will have MP up and stagger. That's what I usually go with. Cloud and Aerith both have MP up and stagger. Early game, Cloud does have Refocus and Skillmaster, but that's more of a top-end strat. I would sooner take off ATB Boost when needed. Take ATB Boost off for Refocus or Skillmaster. Just add in the extra menu. You're not going to miss the time loss. You can get it back later if you really want to go to the harder stuff. So Cloud's going to need both magic ups because his Mithril Saber is the strongest. You could have Elemental Lightning on him, but he really shouldn't be hitting stuff. So normally you can have the Elemental on Barret, which I'm not going to do here, just for consistency's sake, because that's not how my strat works. Synergy Lightning, we almost always want this either on Barret or Aerith. There's going to be some situations where we want to put it on Cloud, but Synergy is very broken. Whenever a character you're controlling does an action that is offensive, so slow, stop, berserk, sleep, any sort of offensive attack, true strike, Buster, you know, Braver, Blade Burst, any of those abilities, any offensive, like, enemy skill, like Self-Destruct or Alleged Aura, anything that offensively targets an enemy will trigger a synergized attack. So even Berserk, which we're going to use to buff a lot of enemies, or debuff a lot of bosses to make them take 30% more damage, will trigger an additional synergy attack. So this is more like additive damage. Barret really doesn't hit hard enough to make this a big thing, but it's worth thinking of. This extra lightning materia is a leftover, so you have 2 open slots here you can put something in. Don't be afraid to de-optimize your equipment to add life-saving stuff, like adding in HP ups and stuff, are not a bad idea. MP up, those... Don't feel afraid to put any of them. What I've opted for is double luck up. Barret doesn't really hit hard enough to screw anything up, even when he crits. So I've decided to add in the luck ups to try and give him that chance of critting. Shiva is more magic-based. Fat Chocobo is better for Tifa because it'll give her a little bit of an HP buff, period. And gives her some physical stats. Cloud is on Bahamut because he does both physical and magical. And Leviathan is for Aerith because it's mainly magical. But, so parry healing. You can change this healing out for an HP up. I find healing is better overall because it just lets the whole party keep their HP up rather than just one person having higher HP. Elemental Lightning. First Strike, obviously. This strat needs First Strike on Tifa and Cloud. You could probably deal with First Strike on Barret, but honestly, I wouldn't put First Strike on him. Refocus, that's not needed just yet, so that could be an HP up. There's an HP up right there. Time isn't needed because the you could haste your party if you wanted to, but we've moved away from those strats. ATB Assist will be activated whenever I do 2 commands back to back. And Skillmaster will be activated if I do 3 different attacks within a certain time window. None of these are really going to get activated in this fight. I'm going to stagger the boss via a bug rather than like its actual damage. So let me just go over the first couple phases. So the front wheels are weak to magic. The rear wheels are weak to physical. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to head on in, and I'm going to switch immediately to Tifa. You can just tactical menu this if you want, but if you switch to Tifa, sometimes that'll happen. And I'm going to Thundaga that leg. What this is going to happen is since Cloud's magic is so stupid high, the leg's just going to pop dead. So we're going to resume real quick. And now we got a pressure Crab Warden. So I'm going to follow up by True Strike. Poke, 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 poke. True Strike. Poke, 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 poke. Uppercut. Uppercut. And now we're going to uppercut. And you can focus strike here just in case, but it's not necessary. So I'm just going to uppercut the leg here. Uppercut, parry, cancel, uppercut, parry, cancel, uppercut, parry, cancel. There you go. Now you're on to phase 2. So the rear legs are weak to physical, so True Strikes will break right through them. You can change this however you want. I just kind of have this set up to work the way that I like. You could probably do a True Strike and then a couple of uppercuts and get all your ATB back. I'm not quite sure. What you're aiming for is a very specific amount of like hidden stagger on the wheels. The wheels actually have a stagger bar, but they're not displayed. But if you break a leg with a specific amount of stagger or more, the stagger will be transferred to the main body of the boss. So if we do this properly and break the rear and the front right leg at the same time with that stagger value being met, the boss will immediately stagger and we won't have to do anything else. So we're going to Thundera with Tifa on the rear leg, since we already have it locked on. Switch to the front and have Cloud Thundaga that one. So I'll do this at speed after I finish this up. But so we're going to Thundera, Thundaga. And now that rear leg, I have under damage, I think. Let me check. Yep, and we're going to Thunder again. Now we've hit the stagger value, but unfortunately... And we're going to True Strike. Okay, normally I would True Strike the generator, switch to Barret, get a Thunder Synergy. I'll probably do that next time because the rear leg didn't break properly because I under damaged. You need to keep this in mind. That's why I don't think this strat is quite as good as it could be. I know all the variations, so I can deal with it. So you want to start on Barret, if at all possible. Because what's going to happen here is Tifa's going to end up taking the stupid attack right off the bat. Oh, okay. There we go. That's nice. So we want to ATB boost with Cloud and just poke, build bar. You can cast a spell on the missile. I will be doing that. The catastrophe here is super important because it does a ton of stagger and damage. So it'll cause the boss to stagger right after I finish pausing because I'm on the 4th hit. So, there you go. Thunder, True Strike, Thunder. So that Thunder accidentally hit the main body, but it would kill. So you're going to have to... Here, I'll show you. See? And now I'm going to have to reload. Okay. So this boss fight is kind of jank. It's not the best. But at least, the very least, you'll understand the mechanics. If you don't want to worry about it, just break the legs and then stagger the boss with focus strikes and thunders. Don't worry about it. But what we're trying to do is trigger assist here. That's the main goal. So we don't have to bother flowing ATB to anybody else. So we're going to switch, Thundaga, back leg, True Strike twice. That triggers assist. And then we're going to uppercut a few times. And then we'll just uppercut the body until it staggers, I guess. I mean, you can kind of do this however you want. So we get True Strike. See, that's the problem with True Striking, right? You can hit that leg a little bit too much. I think I actually broke it. So you got to be careful. Over-damaging that rear leg is very easy. It looks like it's hanging on by a thread, so that may actually have been pretty good. So that's going to break that leg. See how the stagger gets applied to the boss? And now, there you go. That's what you're looking for. We're going to poke here until I can get a True Strike in. Now, I'm going to switch to Barret here. This can be used to retarget Synergy. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm just switching to him so that I start the next phase with him. But I want to make sure that Thunder appears above him so that he casts the Thunder Synergy, which is going to hit the generator and move the phase. Now that I'm on Barret, I can switch to the missile turret and use the invincibility of the limit to ride it out. So we're going to switch over Thundaga, switch over with Cloud, ATB boost, and then I can just come over here, poke a little bit, and then Thunder out the turret with Cloud, and then we're going to Thunder, True Strike, and Uppercut. That is kind of how I do it. Obviously, like I said, the stagger isn't getting activated because I'm breaking the leg via system mechanics. The transferring the stagger from the leg to the body, I don't believe is supposed to be used that way. But because it transfers and basically fills up 70% of the bar, breaking 2 like that will instantly stagger the boss. Like I said, if you miss, just poke it with focus strikes, focus thrust, thunder. Just make sure that you don't burn your limit too early. There's a couple other ways to do this. I think Strife does like a star shower into a somersault in phase 2. Most people just go with the Goddard Dumrung in the second phase. The annoying part is you have to put Goddard on Barret, and Catastrophe is a very long limit. So it's not the best. So we'll do one more, and then we'll call it. Because this does have a few variables in the fight, moving parts, so I want to make sure that it's completely understood. So we'll switch over, Thundaga, switch over to the rear leg, true, poke a little bit, uppercut cancels, uppercut into focus. That's normally what you want to do there. Then we'll just uppercut here a couple of times. Just make sure that you don't cancel too early. So, alternatively here, to make sure that you're fine, I can Thundera, and then I'll Thundera with Barret. So actually what I could do is just, we'll just do Barret's Thundera first, then mine. Okay, that's not what I wanted. And that's why that's an issue. So she does get a stagger because of the way I activated it. Okay, so one of the things you can do is overrun if she gets stunned into the generator. Overrun will hit really hard. Overcharge, really not so much. But if you have Lightning Elemental on Barret, you can push a lot of extra damage here. It's your choice on how you want to, if you want the safety or not. So Cloud didn't need the HP boost. We'll just build a little bit of bar here. Thunder over Cloud. And Thunder, True Strike. There you go. So I hope this helps. As you see, Cloud's MP is very high from MP Absorb. You really don't need a ton of MP to do this fight. You really just need the 11 on Tifa to Thundera the rear leg at least once. And maybe 11 on Barret to Thundera as well. As long as he's got Synergy, you should be fine. Cloud, let's see here. Thundiga, that's 22, but it's reduced, so that's 18. 18 to 36. And then, so around 40 or 50, but if you're adding in MP Absorb, as long as he has around 30 MP going into it, you should be able to get through the fight. So, with that MP crate plus MP Absorb, you should be able to get through that fight without a problem. If you're not using Elemental, remember you are going to need 50 or 60 MP. One more look at the materia. Keep in mind, not all of this is necessary, and obviously I have open slots because of the way my menuing works. Some of this stuff isn't really necessary to refill immediately, but this is what's all equipped. We'll do one more today of Airbuster. Airbuster is quite the fun boss, but very difficult. There you go. All right, see you guys next time.